Welcome to Roots, Routes and Voices, Stories That Shape America. I'm Clara Matonhodze, your co-host and creator of the series. Every person you'll meet in this podcast has roots somewhere. A place, a language, a table they grew up at. And at some point, they chose a different route. To live, to stay, to begin again in America. What happened along that route shaped everything. And what they built when they arrived, whether it was a business, a community, lifestyles that didn't exist before they got here, that became their voice in this country. Those roots, those routes, those voices, this is what this podcast is made of.
And I'm Bryan Wright, Executive Director of Cincinnati Compass and your co-host. A quick note before we begin. The views and stories shared here are those of our guests and do not reflect those of Cincinnati Compass. We believe every voice has a place, especially when it shapes the future of our cities. We would also like to thank our hosts and sponsors who made Season 2 possible, thanks to the Marketer Collaborative and the Greater Cincinnati Foundation.
Let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Roots, Routes and Voices, Stories That Shape America, a Cincinnati Compass podcast. I'm your host and creator of the show, Clara Matonhodze.
And I'm Bryan Wright, Executive Director of Cincinnati Compass and your co-host. Before we dive in, a quick note. The views and stories shared here are those of our guests and do not necessarily reflect those of Cincinnati Compass. We believe every voice has a place, especially when it shapes the future of our cities.
Bryan, before we start, I want to ask you something.
Go ahead.
When you think about what it takes to actually understand a community, not just to work on it, but really to understand it from the inside, what do you think the difference is?
I think the difference is whether you've ever needed what you're trying to provide. Whether you've been on the other side of the desk.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what our guest is like today. She came here in 2003 from Peru and navigated a system that wasn't built for her. And then she spent the next 2 decades, right up until now, making sure that other people don't have to navigate it in a difficult way. In other words, she's trying to make life better for immigrants.
Right. I've been fortunate to work with Mayra for many years, so I'm looking forward to have this conversation. So
yes.
Mayra Casas Jackson is the Executive Director of the Immigrant and Refugee Law Center in Cincinnati. She's a DOJ-Accredited Representative, meaning she can represent clients before U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, or otherwise USCIS. She's been fighting for immigrant rights in this region for over 15 years. And she also, with her husband, owns and operates 33 affordable rental units on the west side of Cincinnati, because she understands that legal status and a safe place to live are not separate problems.
And she studied law in Peru. She started her career there handling Medicaid and food stamps cases because that's what people needed. She was the first immigrant liaison at Cincinnati Hamilton County Community Action Agency.
Yes.
Got it. All right.
CAA.
She has fought for civil rights and immigrant inmates at the Butler County Jail. She has stood in front of city council and said plainly, I'm not going to quote her here, we have a very broken immigration system.
That's someone who knows exactly where she stands.
Exactly where she stands. Mayra, welcome to Roots, Routes and Voices, Stories That Shape America.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, friends, for having me here. I'm excited about this conversation, and thank you so much.
Yeah. You're welcome. So, Mayra, before we talk about the Law Center and about the work, I want to go back because you grew up in Cusco, Peru, is that right?
Yes.
It's one of the oldest inhabited cities in the Americas. Is that correct?
It's a beautiful city.
I bet it is. That's so beautiful. And it's a place with its own history, its own legal and cultural weight, and it runs centuries deep. And then you ended up in Cincinnati.
From all places.
Not that that's a bad option. I guess you can always say it's also like the Queen City, right? So deep traditions there. But you ended up in Cincinnati fighting for people's rights in an entirely different system. So let's start in Cusco, Peru. Take us home. What did that look like?
Of course I'm biased, right? But I think Cusco is the most beautiful city on earth. And truly it is. It's such a beautiful town. If you have not visited, please plan on do that. It's such a beautiful town that mixes the Incas culture with the Spanish culture, and our buildings are gorgeous. You truly feel like you are walking 500 years ago. And it's a city full of energy, When I grew up, it was a very small city. It's much bigger now, but the similarity with Cincinnati, here they always ask you, what high school did you go to? And I always say, like, have you heard my accent? I did not go to high school in Cincinnati. But that's the exact same question we ask in Peru, in Cusco. What school did you go to? Because when I was growing up, it was such a small town and we had very few schools. So someone will always know someone from your school. Even though we did not have cell phones, my parents always found out when I did something bad because someone always knew you somewhere, and that was terrible.
It takes a village, right?
And I'm always saying that question, like, where did you grow up in school? Honestly, like, I don't feel like it's just a Cincinnati question. People in Zimbabwe say the same thing. Like, if I meet a Zimbabwean, they want to know, so where did you go to high school? I feel like it's such a universal question. And haven't we heard it, Bryan, in with other people from other places through the podcast? It's such a universal question.
It might be that Cincinnati is also a small city, right? And a lot of people know each other, and it's a way to connect with other people, and that's how I see it.
Exactly. Like people are trying to figure out where can we connect? How do we connect? And so
exactly.
So tell us about so I know eventually you studied in hotel management and then eventually law, but tell us about a little bit more about what it was like in Cusco, and were you always in that part of Peru, and how long were you there before you came to the U.S.?
I was born in Cusco and lived most of my life in Cusco. Cusco, like many Latin countries, it's the typical families where you all live in one house. So my childhood was spent in my grandparents' house. And it was this big colonial house that had a big patio in the middle, and the house was built around the patio. So we and my family lived on the first floor. My grandparents lived on the second floor, and my auntie and her family lived on the third floor. So I always had cousins to play with. There was always someone in the house. And the typical Latino family that every Sunday, all the uncles and aunties will come with their kids, and there was always something going on every Saturday and Sunday. And my grandma was a big party girl. Maybe that's where I got it from.
A big party girl.
She loved partying. She loved entertaining, and there was so much family. And if there will be one thing comparing to my childhood, to my kids' childhood, that now I appreciate, it's that family time.
Yes.
Because my husband is Canadian, I'm Peruvian, and we both have no family here, except for my sister-in-law who lives in Louisville, but it's not that close.
Right. Yeah.
So my kids never got to experience that family time where you just get together just because, right? You don't need to wait for a birthday or something to happen. You just, every Sunday, we're going to have a meal together, and it become on a party.
And then you're all living in the same compound, and you're eating your meals together on any given day.
It was, and again, it takes time in getting old to value how amazing that was, have always someone to spend time with. You were never alone. And that is something, again, I feel bad about my kids that they don't get to experience that. Now, they cherish every time we visit family, but it is not the same. Right? Your cousins are your siblings, and till today, we're still in contact and we're still communicating. So that was my family. My father used to work for the bank of the government, and he was always a person that wanted to help. Every time he could, he will help somebody. Now, 67% of the people living in my city are still indigenous people. So they still speak Quechua. So there is this big difference between the mestizos, which is the mix between indigenous and Spanish people, and indigenous people. So that's one of the things that really shaped me, because there is so much poverty where I come from, right? And it's very normal to see a 5-year-old child helping the parents in the farm, helping the parents in the farmer's market, like bringing the food to the city. And maybe that's why right now, like, kids have a special place in my heart, because I've seen what it takes for these kids to be able to succeed, especially in a country like Peru. And I love my country, but we don't have money. The government doesn't provide assistance, right? Kids cannot go to school because in many cases that means that these kids will have to walk 1 hour each way to be able to go to school. So there are no the opportunities. And I think that's why I really understand why especially children are looking for a better future, and that's a human right. And that is something my father always tried to teach us, like, what can we do for others?
Yeah. So were you aware when you're growing up, because I know I've read a lot of stories and maybe some studies about the difference in like the mestizos and the Quechua, that would be the indigenous people.
Right.
Is that right? Were you aware of that difference when you were growing up? I'm wondering, like, and I know there's a lot of like friction and maybe, I don't know whether we can say it's racism or tribalism, but compared to what's here in the U.S., is this something that you grew up being aware of, or no? I'm just curious about how that was like as you're growing up in that environment.
That's a great question, Clara, because until I came here, and I want to say this in the nicest way, I love my country, right? It has a special place in my heart.
Yes.
But until I came here, I realized that discrimination and racism are socially acceptable in countries like ours, right? Where the treating indigenous people, not badly, but, using these despective words towards them, it's normal, right? It's normal to call them Indios, right? And we know the whole story about Indios and
Right.
from India, but that is acceptable. Or even people from my city. My city is up in the mountains in Peru, right? If you go to the coast, to the capital, they will discriminate you because you are coming from the mountains. And that is acceptable.
Yeah.
And it took me to come to this country to realize that that's terrible. The way we're living over there is terrible because it's socially okay to make those differences. And it's very easy to distinguish an indigenous person in my city because they still dress up with their indigenous outfits.
Right.
And the fact that we bring indigenous people to be maids in our house, in the way we treat people, again, it took me so long until I was in this country.
Yeah,
to see
the difference.
right?
Yes, I totally understand what you're saying, Mayra.
And to see how corruption is socially acceptable over there. If you are paying your taxes the right way, or you are just dumb, you should find ways to avoid paying taxes. And I had to re-educate myself to learn how we live here and how do we have to follow the rules here to assimilate into this community.
Yeah. No, it's serious. I love that. It's one of those things like now these days when you hear a lot of things about people are now being anti-woke and whatnot, and like you have no idea what it is to have a culture that really kind of accepts discrimination, because Zimbabwe I feel is very much the same. Even up to now, I'll get in fights on Facebook or social media with some of my old classmates who will be talking about their housemaids like they're these subservient people just because it is so socially acceptable to discriminate against certain groups of people if you're in a different social strata. So,
and I made it my mission. Like, I need to change that every time I go to my country. But it's so hard to change that mentality, right? Because when you bring those things up, you are suddenly anti-Peruvian. You think you're better because you're living in the U.S. and you want to change how things are happening here. And it's very difficult to change that. And just to share a quick story, Peru has never been a country that received immigrants. We export immigrants, right? But the crisis in Venezuela, it was so terrible that many Venezuelans chose to go to Peru, which is not a much better country as far as economy, right?
Yeah.
What do you think? I'm sorry. What do you think that is? Why out of the many countries they could have gone to, why did they choose Peru as that option?
Proximity.
Because anything was better than Venezuela.
Yeah, they're not going to go to Colombia,
better,
so
right?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so
okay.
at least Peru, not many people were going to Peru. And our economy, even though our government is terrible, our economy has been doing pretty well in Peru.
Okay.
So again, Peru is not a country that used to receive immigrants. So the way Venezuelans have been received in Peru, it breaks my heart because they are mistreated in Peru just the way we're seeing here now. Right. They are not welcome. And my own friends, my own family have horrible feelings towards Venezuelan immigrants. And they cannot even relate the fact that I'm your daughter, your sister, your friend. I'm an immigrant in the U.S. Is that how you will wish I'm treated in the U.S., the way you are treating these people here? But it's, again, so hard to change that idea, right? That hate towards the Venezuelans in Peru. They don't understand that, look, the situation in our country is so bad, but there is no choice. This is better than what they have at home. And they have to face this discrimination and all of that in order to come here.
It's like the lesser devil.
Exactly, right? And I didn't want to say, this is still a really bad country, guys.
Right.
But that makes me look anti-Peruvian, right? It's not taken the way I wanted to convey.
Yeah. And I'm also hearing, I understand that there are differences, and like, I think that's that learning that you had when you came here and understanding and being able to reflect on, the country where you were from about the practices and stuff. But I hear a lot of similarities where, here in the U.S., discrimination historically has been codified into law and practices, and that are what our history is based off, right? Is discrimination and racism, and then
but it's not socially acceptable.
It was, and even we still find where some levels of discrimination and even how we talk about other people is socially acceptable, and I think some would argue and it's becoming more so now. And I think about that's
the fear,
and I think about how, and we'll get into this, but I think how you situate your work now, where you're situated around immigration and welcoming people who, there is a narrative around immigrants, and it varies to the degree of unwelcoming based on where people are from. So having that experience in Peru and understanding that, of the different linguistic communities. We're now having indigenous communities of other countries coming here, whether from Guatemala, from Peru, and others. And then the work that you're doing now to help welcome them here, I see the parallels, like the similarity between the infrastructure here and their history here, and how how it was in Peru and some of these other countries too. But I think we'll get into that, like the work you're doing now.
But I think you're right, Bryan, because, there was so much discrimination in this country, and we thought we overcame that. And I don't know if it was, because when I first arrived, I was impressed, but, all the rules, and maybe we were just hiding that, but making all these rules and trying to make everyone equal. And now it's exactly what you say, we're going backwards to that time when racism and discrimination was okay in the country. I totally see that we're going backwards.
Yeah, it's definitely a regression. Yeah. So, Mayra, you came to the U.S. in 2003, correct? What was the pull at the time? Was it a decision you made, or was it something that happened to you?
So I was going to, and this is kind of a funny story, because I was going to law school in Peru.
And you said you don't have any funny stories, Ellie.
So again, now that I'm old, I think back, and I tell my kids, if I will go back in time, I will listen to my parents a little bit more than I did when I was a kid.
Right? Don't you just want to shake them like, you do not want to be me?
Yes.
And all this stuff. I was not listening.
Your parents know you.
Yes.
Your parents know what you are good for. So when I graduated high school, I wanted to be an engineer really bad. And I love math. And my father used to say, you're going to be an attorney, and you're going to be a good attorney. You need to go to law school. But I don't want to go to law school. I want to be an engineer. And also it's a little bit of a patriarchal society, right? So my dad say, well, I'm paying for school, so you are going to law school. I'm not paying for engineer school. And at the same time, I got a scholarship. It was for a much smaller university. And I said, well, then I'm going to go and study hotel management at this school. Of course, that upset my parents really badly.
Oh,
right?
That is a huge shift. Engineering, law, hotel management.
Absolutely. And this was a much shorter career. So when I graduated, I realized my city is very touristic. But I wasn't going to change anyone's life or make an impact by being a tour guide or managing a hotel.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, okay, my dad was right. I'm going to go to law school. So that's how I ended up in law school. And I absolutely love it. And then if I will go back, of course, my dad knew me. My dad knew what I could do right. And I just didn't listen. I listened too late, but I did listen. So while I was studying, although I did have the opportunity to live in Machu Picchu for 6 months, that's when I realized I don't want to work in hotels and tourism. I love Machu Picchu.
And I love awakening.
It was, I loved like my Sundays when I was off just to go for a jog and up to Machu Picchu, and that's something I appreciate now. But I realized, okay, this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So then I went to law school. And while I was in law school, the opportunity to come and study in the U.S. came. And I was supposed to come for a short period of time. That was the plan. And the idea is I'm going to study something. I'm going to work and save money and then come back to Peru. When I came here in 2003, a basic monthly salary in Peru was about $165 a month. So, if I could save...
That was for what, like for lawyers or just average?
That was the average, like labor, like an associate, right?
Okay.
And so if I could have saved like $15,000, that was great money for me to start in Peru. So that was my goal. And so I came here, and I did not think how hard it was going to be, first of all, to be so far away from my culture, from my country, from my people, from my food. And I was so lonely. And someone from my city was living in the city where I arrived. And it was an old friend. We went to school together. And so he was my connection back home.
I'm sorry. Did you know that they were there? Or did
Yes, I knew them.
Oh,
okay.
Okay.
Yes. And I specifically connect with this person before I even came to the U.S. And I think we started a relationship. He's a great person, and we're still in touch, and he's the father of my first child. So when I had my first child, I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot go back home now with accomplishing nothing and with a child. And so then my goal became, I need to make as much money as I can and then go back home. And that's what I did. I was going to the Ball State Community College in Gallatin, Tennessee, and I was working at the same time. And any overtime, I was the first one to say, I want to work overtime. I need to make money.
Right.
And I was working at Dell Computers, and that's where I met my husband, my now husband. So when I first met him, to me, it was like, well, we'll have a good time. In the meantime, while I go back home. And it got to the point, my son by then was like 18 months. When he was 18 months, it got to the point that I did it. I saved enough money. I even bought a house, and I was getting ready to sell my house. I have more than $15,000. So I'm ready to go home. And that's when my husband proposed. And it was a very, very hard decision. Not because I didn't love him, but because that meant I'm not going back home.
Right. Yeah.
So when we got married, kind of in the back of my head it was...
Wait, where's he from?
Canada.
Canada.
And we met in Nashville.
Okay. All right. Because I was I thought this is the guy that you're in contact with when you're in Peru. I was going to say you could have gone back to, but okay, got it.
The guy, the father of my son, he is from Cusco. He's from the same city I'm from.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess in the back of my head, my idea is I'm going to convince him to move to Peru, and we can start together in Peru. And then we had our daughter. Things just did not work. Going to Peru was becoming more of a dream than something I can actually accomplish. And we were living in Nashville back then. And then my husband was transferred to Cincinnati. And that's how we end up in Cincinnati.
Gotcha.
And we recently found out that Bryan also lived in Nashville, so we both lived in Nashville. And it was interesting moving from Nashville to Cincinnati. I don't know how you felt about that, Bryan.
Well, I moved from just a little bit. So I'm thinking now, when I know we lived in Nashville around the same time, but at Dell, so around 2003, 2005, I was working in refugee resettlement and spent a lot of time at Dell helping, recently arrived refugees find employment there. So we must have been...
Where was Dell?
Dell was in Gallatin in Nashville.
Okay.
And so I'm wondering we must have been orbiting the same spaces at this time. That's so wild.
Each other.
It's crazy.
And we lived in the same neighborhood at some point.
You lived in the same neighborhood too?
Antioch, and there was this street where I would always go with my husband, Nolensville Road, where there were like things from every corner of the world. Yes. It was just amazing. So anytime I wanted something Peruvian, I knew I could find it there.
Yeah.
And then we moved to Cincinnati. It was 2006.
And Bryan, when did you move to Cincinnati?
We moved here so we kind of bounced around from Philly to Miami, Florida, and then here. And so, but all three of those cities are very different than Cincinnati. We moved here in 2008.
Okay, so
not long after you arrived.
2 years.
So I'm just following you around, apparently.
I know. We need to coordinate the next place. That's a very cool place.
Right. Cusco.
Oh God, that will be.
That would be amazing.
Still part of my heart things. I hope I do. But
and you already answered Bryan. Bryan always likes to ask people that we interview, like, how did you end up in Cincinnati?
Right.
So
I know, to be 100% honest, I did not think I was going to like Cincinnati. When we first arrived, there was Jungle Gyms, and there was a couple of Latino bakery and a Latino store across the street on Route 4. But it was mostly Central American products. I could not find anything from Peru. And, when I was looking at restaurants, back then everything were chain restaurants and hamburgers and French fries everywhere. And coming from Nashville, that there was so much diversity of food, like whatever you wanted to eat, to come here. I told my husband, where did you bring me? It was really shocking. And it amazes me to see the change because of the work, Cincinnati Compass has done, the work so many organizations have done to see what Cincinnati is now. And to have witnessed that, it's amazing. We're such a vibrant, beautiful place now, which who will think? Now just on my walk here from the office, there was a Lebanese restaurant, a Ukrainian restaurant, an Asian restaurant. It was just amazing.
Right. Yeah, it's great. And just like similar from 2008 to now, just the changes that have happened. And it's just wonderful to see people from all over the world that now are like, yeah, Cincinnati's fantastic.
Yes. You will not say that 2006.
No. It was very different. It was very different. And people ultimately, I was of the same mindset too. Like, I'm just going to go to Cincinnati, go to school, finish up at NKU, and then I'll go. When I came to the U.S., I was in Philly. And then I always thought I would go back to Philadelphia, but yeah.
Yeah, I love when friends and family come to visit, and because especially if it's their first time. Yeah. And they all have the exact same replies, like, I just did not know. Like, now you do and tell everybody else.
Right. It's such a beautiful place. I don't know, Cincinnati has something because you end up falling in love with Cincinnati.
And the parks, like, I have not gone anywhere in the U.S. where the parks are as beautiful as the parks in Cincinnati. Like, that has got to be something to do with it, too.
Right. You moved to Cincinnati, and then I think when you and I met, I think you were still working at Legal Aid. And then, handling kind of public benefit cases and also doing immigration cases as a DOJ-Accredited Representative. So that's significant authority for someone who didn't come up through a traditional American legal education. So how did you get to Legal Aid and then,
Oh, God, that's a crazy story, right? So remember, in the back of my head, I was going to convince my husband to move to Peru. And it didn't work. So when we moved to Cincinnati, I actually got my transfer from Dell Computers to Cincinnati because they had a facility in Westchester. So I was working there. And then we had our second child. And so things just got too crazy. And I quit work so I could spend some time with the children while they were little. And that's when I realized this is not happening. We're never going back to Peru. So I need to find my path now because I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. It was good. It was paying the bills. But I always felt like I need to make an impact. I need to do something.
Right.
So I was looking for another job or to go back to work because I was not working for a couple of years with the children. And I remember just looking, and I saw a post for Legal Aid, and they were looking for a Spanish-speaking intake person. And, I read about Legal Aid and the work that they do, and I said, well, this is what I want to do. This is where I can do something. It was a very basic job. Just they wanted to connect more with the Hispanic community, and they needed someone speaking Spanish, and even better, someone who looks like the Spanish clients to work with them. So I remember I was so nervous, guys. I was so nervous because working at Dell Computer was different, right? It was like we're doing computers, and this is here. It's like I need to be able to, connect with people and work with people. And you even have doubts about, is my English good enough? Like, am I going to understand all this legal language? And I started studying like the language and the whole thing. I didn't know if this was going to be my career, and I was very nervous. So when I got the job right away, And I don't know if it was because they really like me or they just could not find a bilingual person, so we're taking her.
Probably was both.
But it was meant to be. And it's a place, I always say I have a place close to my heart for legal aid because it's been the place that gave me the opportunity. Regina Campbell, my supervisor attorney, which I adore her. She's my mentor. She's the person, because I was always afraid to try. And that is something with all immigrants. You're afraid. We were all there, and people will support you. You just need to
have the confidence.
Yes,
that,
exactly.
Yeah, it's always a lot of imposter syndrome.
Right. And I did not. And Regina told me, you're going to be a paralegal. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah.
So you're going to do it and you're going to be okay. And I'm going to be here helping you. In legal aid, paid for trainings, paid for my education so I could do the work.
Nice.
And it was very good. And I remember when she first told me, you're going to start doing this paralegal work tomorrow. And I look back and I say, why did I even have that mindset? I said, could you just put me on a test for 3 months? And if I don't do it right, please let me know and just remove me and put me back to doing
before it causes too much damage.
Right? And but she believed in me. And that's something I try to do now. Because if she would have not believed in me the way she did and gave me the opportunity and say, you're going to be okay because I'm going to be watching what you're doing. You're not alone. That really gave me the confidence. And I started working on public benefits cases, which was a complete new thing to me. I never even had the experience of how the application process goes and how all these rules have to apply. I had my legal background from Peru, like I kind of knew how to figure things out. But navigating the whole legal system was quite a new thing. But she was a great mentor. A year later, I started working with the immigration attorneys. And that's when I realized this is what I want to do. Because there are so many personal barriers I had to go through. And I will not say there were huge challenges, because there were small things, but they are very significant at the time, right? Like when choosing, how do I enroll my child in school? How do I even pick which school he has to go to? And my husband I will ask him, but I'm sorry, Bryan, but this is a typical man. I don't remember. My mom did all those things. So he wasn't really much of a help, right? But
it's usually the woman doing the work, right?
Right.
Yeah, but those are complicated things when you are new to the system, honestly. It's not a small feat. It's hard to figure out the schools. I remember having to figure out which schools my sons would go to. And I thought it was a very easy decision. You just pick a school you want to go to. It's no, your school district ends on this borderline here. So it is not obvious. Yeah.
And once you figure what is school, my next question is, how does the school work here? Because even the grading system in Peru is from 0 to 20.
Yes.
And here is the ABCD. Okay.
It's if you get a 65, you've got a D. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yes, right.
How do I have a failing grade when I have got half of the stuff right?
I know. And learning all those things was quite a challenge. It's not... And Bryan and I were talking we had this meeting yesterday, right? There are so many hidden rules that many people learn because you've seen your parents doing it and your grandparents doing it. But for someone who just come to a country, it's not that obvious.
It is.
So many simple things are not obvious, right? So many people when I first came here, you need to build your credit. Okay, I kind of get what the credit is because of my dad's background in the bank. So in order to do that, you need to apply for a credit card. So then I was applying for credit cards and being denied over and over again because I had no credit. So it was like a vicious circle. I'm applying, but I'm denied. How can I do this? And so it took me to go to a bank and sit down and say, well, what's going on? Because I need to build this credit. But it took me to do that for someone nice at the bank to sit down with me and explain to me, well, you should start by opening a secure credit card while you pay a deposit. And so you get, could someone have told me that 6 months ago instead of me just putting all these applications?
And then even when you do that, it takes you a while to know you can only use that credit at 30%.
And I didn't even know that by doing that, I was actually hurting my credit because my credit was checked several times and I wasn't approved. So all those little things. And I think because we went through that, it's just fair and the right thing to help the others, help the new ones. So you don't have to go through that. We can make it easier for you because, if I have those barriers and I came here speaking the language because I had to pass this English test in order to get this student visa. So I understood English and I still have issues. And I have so much respect and admiration for people that come here without speaking the language,
oh my God, yes.
often without going to school up to 6th grade, and they can barely read and write, but they are making it, and they are successful, and they are opening businesses, and you're doing this not knowing the system, not speaking the language. I mean, there's so respect. I have so much respect for these people.
It is a lot of respect. Yeah, it is. So you became the first immigrant liaison at Cincinnati Hamilton County Community Action Agency. I'm so proud of myself.
You did
it. About that. Without tongue twisting, that's a lot. That's a first for me. But anyway, a first for you. So first, I guess, it's a word that carries a lot, right?
Yes.
What does it mean to you to be the first at something? And what did you have to figure out that no one had figured out before?
So, just as we were saying earlier, I saw this gap. There was no one telling the community, this is how you live in the U.S. This is how you navigate the system. This is how we do things at the school. Or even programs like Cincinnati Compass does now, civic education. So we don't know how the government works and how you can be part of the government. So I really love when Bryan and Cincinnati Compass organize this training on how are we part of our government. So that was my goal with Community Action Agency, because historically they have always served the low-income African-American community, and they do a great work at it. But there are other communities that could benefit from their services, and they are receiving the money to serve everyone. So the CEO back then was very excited about expanding the services and making sure we include the immigrant community. So it was a great time for me to be able to execute what I wanted to do, to make a trail map for new immigrants to learn to navigate the system.
Right.
And we had great plans and services available to community action through Community Action Agency. And it was so exciting. 5 months later, COVID hit. And the world changed that day. And all these big dreams we had, like we are going to do all these services, everything changed because suddenly we were dealing with this pandemic.
Yeah, you're in lockdown,
But it was crucial because Community Action Agency received millions of dollars to help to assist people during the pandemic.
Right.
And it was kind of a blessing that I was working there because I was able to connect the community with those services that maybe otherwise they would have not known that the service was available and that CAA was providing those services because CAA historically never worked with immigrant communities.
Okay.
So we were able to be that connection, and they were, I think it just create awareness about CAA and their work in the immigrant community and all the immigrant groups. And it was great work, so I started that work. But to be honest, 2022, it's like immigration law, it's my thing. Like I need to go back to do immigration law because that's where my passion is. And that's where I feel that there is more impact that you can make in people when you are able to provide them with a legal status and the ability to work legally in the U.S.
Yeah.
So, but it was great because the program was already established at CAA. So when I let them know I was leaving, they were able to fill the position, and they are still doing the work. And we have our great friend Sergio now doing the work I was doing, and he's doing fantastic work. And I love when we go to meetings and people are saying, so we need to invite CAA to this meeting.
Right.
But I love it. This is not something we thought 6 years ago because they were never on the table.
Yeah,
for
I
this
didn't
group.
know CAA does immigration work now either. So,
They are providing services to immigrants, and Sergio does a fantastic work with that.
And what I'm hearing, like whether it was at like a legal aid, a community action agency, and now at the Immigrant and Refugee Law Center, you talked about hidden rules. And, it's one thing to be able to, offer, here are the steps you need to do to be able to, register your business. Here's the things you need to do to be able to get access to WIC or any social services. But it's easy. It's not easy. It's like, I can do that, but I don't have the lived experience, whereas in the way that you're talking about it. And I think having that is crucial for the person navigating these systems. And you talked about that, but it's also important for the providers to understand those hidden rules. Because I think a lot of times there's a lot of service provision without fully understanding the experience of the people that they're trying to serve, particularly when it relates to immigration status. And so I think I'm really glad that you brought up the hidden rules, because it is, you're right, it is. People need to see themselves reflected in how to navigate these services, and that's why it's that lived experience is crucial for that service navigation. But it's also, and I think equally important, for those providers, so that, like you were saying at CAA, they weren't familiar, they're familiar with the services, but not necessarily how they're accessible to the immigrant community. And at a time during COVID, it was just, wild for everyone. But for you to be able to also help them be a better provider of service to the community is crucial. And I think that is it's important for this kind of work to have those hidden rules be brought to light, both for those accessing the resources and for the organization themselves too.
And that's why these conversations are important, in having people from the community, having these conversations from people with the communities. And I'll share this quick story, because when I first started working there, we had this Head Start program, and there was one school in Camp Washington that was serving a lot of immigrant kids, right? And so they told me, well, it's a snow day today, and there are parents showing up at school. And didn't you let them know that the school is closed? Well, we send a message through everyone, and they know that this is snow day. Okay. Let's go back. We have no snow in our country.
Right. Like, what does it mean?
So when you're saying it's a snow day, what they assume is when the bus did not show up, that means I have to drive my kid to school.
Yeah.
But nobody explained to them, when it's a snow day, the school closed.
Yes.
And you don't have to leave your house. But are basic things like that you're completely right, Bryan, that providers need to understand. They need to put themselves in our shoes and kind of understand. And I know they seem very small, but it makes a huge difference, right? How we feel welcome here with so many basic things. Like, how do you know when the trash is picked up on your street, and how you're supposed to dispose the trash, right? Because there are rules, like you have to cut them this way and put them that. You cannot just put your couch out there, right?
Yeah.
And you know that because your parents never did that. Your parents did it this way, and you're going to keep doing it that way, and it doesn't work for us. So actually, like in Peru and in Cusco, we don't have a set day for the trash to be picked up, and this is actually quite funny because the trash, the truck could come any day of the week. You just have to be, you have to pay attention. And they come playing this very, very, very loud music. So it's the trash, and you have to run to your door and give them your truck. Yeah, totally. And if you miss the truck, well, you just have to wait until the next time you hear the very loud music, and they'll pick up your trash.
Those things are so true. And I feel, even now, after having even taken my kids through high school, I just found out the other day, like I did a big faux pas, so my son, he had to track me. This is like senior night, and I've never gone through senior night. Yes. Like, I honestly did not know what to expect for the senior night and all the traditions of the school and all of that. And I was literally the only mom without spirit wear at the school. Oh. And everyone else, showed up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, to my son, why didn't you tell me? Like, I had to. It's like, but mom, I'm like, I've never gone through this. Like, how would I know? And then they had a whole bunch of history that they would talk about as the athletes are walking. I had no idea I had to fill out a form with all that information if your kid is an athlete, So here I am walking with my son. I'm not in spirit wear. And the only thing that they have to say is his name and who's accompanying him. And that's it. He didn't get all the bio that the other athletes get. But it's honestly things like that are like, it seems like it's small things, but it's really a big thing. Like, how would you know that if you didn't grow up in the school system, and you know what schools do and what this represents and all of that stuff. You know?
Yeah. And even with small stuff, like I have my daughter graduating this year as well, and my son graduated. So I thought I already had the experience with him. I know what to do, but he's a boy, right?
Yes, so different.
My son, like, we're not doing pictures or anything, Mom.
Oh, yeah, that was the other thing too. Like my son is, they're already not big on telling you what's happening. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Sons are different.
Yeah.
And now with my daughter, well, apparently there is this whole new thing that you have to do pictures with the group of girls and you have to do this and that. And all the photographers were booked already for these groups. So my daughter is missing that because I didn't know. Yeah. How am I going to know that
like you should
you're
have
supposed to do
in
this?
January.
Right, like all these sessions of pictures.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Izzy, I feel so bad, but I did not grow up like that.
Yes.
And and those things, especially when you come from a third world country, our graduation is very simple because people are focused on bringing food to their tables.
Right. Yeah.
And here is a much different world. And so we'll still take your pictures. I have an iPhone. We'll do your
and by that time, she's mad already, like you did not do it the right way. So
God,
it's like, forget that.
With her, she has learned to appreciate the whole immigrant culture. But that's also a challenge, right? My daughter, we live in Hebron. And when she was going to elementary school with my son, I could count the immigrant kids with both of my hands at the school. They were not immigrant kids. Mm-hmm. And I always tried to get involved with the school because I wanted to learn. I want to be with my kids.
Yeah.
And when my daughter was like 5 years old, I overheard this conversation with my husband because I was going to go and it was book time and I was the reader that day. Mm-hmm. And she was mortified that I was going to be the reader. And she told my husband,
your accent.
But I don't want Mom to go because, the way she talks. And I'm like, okay, this is wrong. And I get it. She's a kid.
Yeah.
So I try to talk to her more about, that's not right, but I don't want to hurt your feelings. I get how you feel, but, you need to be proud of, if I have an accent, it's because I speak two languages.
Yes. Right.
And I make mistakes and, sometimes I say things and people will understand other things. That's why when I say focus, I say it very slow because people think I'm saying a bad word, but I'm not. I always say focus.
Yes, there are certain words I refuse to say in public.
Yes. But I think with talking with all of that, she realized she has learned a lot. So she has grown and she is an amazing kid now. And I think she has that passion for civil rights in her.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
And I'm glad
she got that from you. Yeah.
I'm glad she said that back then, right? Because I would have not known how she was feeling.
Right.
So now she understands, my mom is Peruvian. She forgot the pictures.
Exactly.
Well, that's okay. So it's not that terrible anymore.
Yeah.
It is fun how they surprise us where they're like, oh, go away, Mom. I don't want you here at this event. And then now there's a pathway to that she's pursuing because of you. That's they push us away and then they actually do listen to us from time to time.
Yeah. I know, right?
Yeah.
So we are coming up at a break.
Yes.
And so, we talked a lot about your work with Legal Aid and Community Action Agency, and want to get into your work with the Immigrant Refugee Law Center because, as you shared, you realized immigration is where you want to be and to serve. And so we'll take a pause and we'll get into that work right after this break.
A word from our studio home this season. Roots, Routes, and Voices records at the Marketer Collaborative at 15 East 14th Street in Cincinnati. It's a space built for people who believe that creative work and meaningful work belong in the same room. We do too. Schedule your tour at themarketercollab.com. Welcome back to Roots, Routes, and Voices, Stories That Shape America, a Cincinnati campus podcast. I'm your host, Clara Matonhodze, and today I have with me my co-host, Bryan, right, as usual, and our guest, Mayra Jackson, who is the Executive Director for the Immigrant and Refugee Law Center. And so, Mayra, I want us to get into all of it because you've built what is not just a legal service. So let's go there. What is the Immigrant, Refugee, and Law Center?
So we are an organization that provides free legal services to immigrants and refugees in the greater Cincinnati area, which includes northern Kentucky. To us, and I say as my staff is so dedicated to the work and they have so much passion. It's very important, not only for an immigrant to navigate the system, right, but navigate it with dignity and justice. So when an immigrant goes to immigration court, unfortunately, they are treated like criminals without the right of an attorney. Right? And they are fighting their case against an attorney who represents ICE, whose job is to get them deported. So they are immediately in disadvantage. So for immigrants, it's really hard to fight their cases when they have no representation. But unfortunately, private attorneys are very expensive. And as we know, immigrants have left everything behind. It's not an easy decision. It wasn't an easy decision for me to stay here, coming with a student visa, coming, with documentation. Coming without documents is a much harder and more difficult decision. And people are leaving everything behind. And they are doing it that way because it's that or dying in your home country. There is no option. There is no, unfortunately, a legal path to come to the U.S. when you are poor, when you just want to work and provide a better future for your family, which is a human right. So they have no choice but asking for asylum at the south border, which is a legal way to come to the U.S., right? But as soon as they come in, they have to navigate this very, very complicated system, and they have no one to help them. So when our founder, when Julie created the organization in 2018, she saw that gap, she saw the need, and that's how the organization started. And I came on board in 2022 to help with immigration cases. And then Julie had this opportunity to keep doing amazing work in the community through the university. And suddenly we had this conversation, and she was another one of those moments, right? She said, Mayra, you can lead this organization. And it was that fear that I was telling you earlier. Again, like, can I do it? What if I fail? What if I take this, all the hard work you have put into this to the ground? But I have a great group of attorneys. The attorneys I work with, I've known them for, one of them for 15 years. We've worked together. In the other attorneys, we have worked together at Legal Aid as well, great friends of mine. And this is a funny story because when we stopped working at Legal Aid, when I stopped working at Legal Aid, we were still getting together every so often to just catch up and having, you know how women we are. We like to keep the friendship. And we've always talked about we should create a nonprofit that just do immigration law because we all were so passionate about it.
This literally fell on your lap, like this opportunity.
We keep, this is a joke, but we say, Julie created it for us. It was meant to be. And it's something that we've always talked about. We know each other so well. We know our strengths and we know our weaknesses. We know when someone is struggling and we need to take something off their plate. So we know how we like to celebrate our victories. So it's just literally the ideal team. If it fails, it's all on me, guys, because the team is amazing. So it's impossible to fail with such an amazing people behind you. It's impossible.
And I know Julie, and I know Julie, and I know she's talked about how, I created the thing, and I feel like, but I don't feel like I'm the person who's going to bring it home and make it bigger. Someone else is going to do that. Like Mayra is totally capable, so that says a lot.
She put her trust on me, and again, I'm glad things are working out. I don't want to be political on this, but, I did not even see all the challenges that were going to come under this administration, which what has made this significantly more challenging than it should be.
So,
is that something that you can talk to us about? Like, how has that changed what your clients are carrying, what you are carrying on a day-to-day? Like, how has that changed? Has it changed at all the type of cases that you accept? Like, what does this current environment mean to the center?
It has definitely made our work incredibly challenging, not only because of the inhumanity that we're seeing, the cruelty. It's a very emotional work. It's hard not to get emotional and share your client's suffering. It's impossible to separate those two things, right? Because we are working with humans, with amazing, beautiful people. We have clients from so many years that, there is nothing that brings more joy to your heart than getting a picture from our client that, hey, I was able to reunite with my mother after 15 years of not seeing her, because we were able to help you and getting you the ability to have a legal status and visit home. You know, it's great emotion, but right now it's more like living the fear with our clients, you know, like telling a parent, hey, you know, you need to be prepared for a deportation. Even though you are a great person, you have not committed a crime, but you are a victim of these horrible immigration policies. So let's think about what's going to happen to your kids, what's going to happen to your property. Even though you are a parent capable of taking care of your child, it's just horrible to tell them you need to find someone else to take care of your child because you might be arrested. So it's very, very hard not to get involved with our clients in that way. Like at the same time, we are celebrating the victories and whatever our clients are accomplishing. But in addition to that is this constant, it's not only emotionally challenging, it's legally challenging because this administration has been changing policies every single day. We pretty much have blocked 1 hour every day just to keep up with
what's
with
new
the policy
today.
changes, right? And every policy is worse than the one before. You know, every single thing. The attack to refugees has been like absolutely horrible because, you know, we all know what it takes to be a refugee and to come to the U.S. as a refugee. Nobody came to this country more legal and more vetted than a refugee. And the way this administration is treating refugees is absolutely horrible. All our refugee clients right now could be arrested any minute for absolutely nothing. So even thinking of that, like we have our legal meetings every couple of weeks. Well, we need to be careful about how many cases we're taking because in 2 weeks we may have over 30 clients arrested, and we need to make sure we have the time to go file for bond hearings, for habeas, because those are going to be, you know, illegal arrests. And when we talk about waste, that's where waste goes. You are arresting these parents that have not done anything wrong. They just haven't received their green cards yet because your government are not doing your work. You are taking so long to process their green cards. And in the meantime, the government hasn't said anything about the children. So while you're arresting the parents, these children are going to go to the foster care system. These kids are already traumatized because you separated them from their parents. And now you're going to put them in the foster care system where the trauma is going to even increase. So dealing with those uncertainties, like what's going to happen? Can we see the future? Can we see what's going to bring? It's just absolutely horrible. So, it's both legally and emotionally challenging right now.
Right.
It's very hard.
And just thinking about, I mean, there's so much, right? We can spend a whole other hour talking about this, right? And I mean, you dedicate an hour a day, right, or a week to understand the policies that are coming down the pipeline. And it's just, and you have to be current and up to date to share with the families that you're working with and the broader communities and the providers that we talked about. I think it's also so kind of like a two-part question, same thing, but around you talked about hidden rules earlier, and you talked about, you know, hidden rules within our legal structure and service provision and stuff. What about the immigration as a system? What would you want people to know about the system that they don't know about? And you kind of shared a little bit, right, about how chaotic it is. But what would you want people to know about or better understand about immigration as a system, but also immigrants as people?
So I always say that our immigration system is broken because it is, right?
It is, yeah.
First, we do need immigrants because the immigrant workforce is really what's making this country great. But at the same time, we don't have pathways for people that just want a better future and work here and pay their taxes to be able to do that. I hate to use the word legal and illegal because it's just horrible, right? But there is not a legal path for these people to come here. There is a big difference when you have money. When you have money, the doors to come here are open for you. You know, we are going to invest your millions in the U.S. Come here. Yeah. You can afford paying international tuition to go to school here, so your kids are welcome here. They can come here. But when you are poor and you're escaping poverty, drugs, gangs, corruption, violence, there is no legal path for me to go to an embassy and say, I want to work in the U.S. Many people seem to believe that there is this waiting list. It doesn't exist. There is no waiting list where people can put their name and wait their turn to come to the U.S. But it is something that could happen. It's something that if we work together, we can implement and create a work program where people can come, work. The U.S. as a country will benefit from their workforce, and then they can go back home because they want to be home. Again, to me, nothing brings me more joy than planning my next trip to Peru. And so being in this country and not being able to go back home is a horrible, depressing feeling. I admire these people that can do that, immigrants that can do that. It's a very, very hard life. But at the same time, we're also humans. We bring so much to our communities. We are making our communities vibrant and beautiful. We are bringing all this diversity in our culture. We were talking earlier, from 2006, Cincinnati 2006, to this Cincinnati now is such a beautiful, vibrant place because of immigrants.
Yeah.
We are
Definitely.
enjoying Asianati, Afrofest, Cincy Cinco. It's all because of immigrants. We love Taste of Cincinnati. Last year, the winners of Taste of Cincinnati were
Olive Tree.
Yep. Right? It's this Syrian cuisine that we love. And
she was a refugee too.
She was a refugee. She's one of our clients. So we're so proud of her because that's what immigrants bring here. There is this myth that, we are living off the government and applying for public benefits. I have done public benefits for over 10 years. And without a social security number, you cannot even click the submit button to ask for benefits.
That is a huge misunderstanding Americans don't have, is you literally cannot live in this country if you're not documented in some way.
Right.
And I always say, I have never met anyone whose ambition is to come to America just to be a public benefit.
Right.
Like, never, I don't know anyone with that ambition. Right. Like, I'm going to leave my friends, my family, my home, and just become a public charge in this other country.
Right? This is crazy. Just like I have not met any American who told me that they are dying to work in a farm, but because of an undocumented person, they cannot get a job in a farm, right? Because we cannot fill that industry. Yeah. Same thing with construction. Same thing with hospitality. So, it is going to be economically devastating to the U.S. if we don't have immigrants. It will be absolutely terrible. Yeah. And of course, not even counting the humane side of this, separating families and how many U.S. citizens are going to stay in this country without their parents and the whole thing. And the whole cruelty behind these deportations. There is absolutely no need for what's happening.
No,
right?
Not at all. But we can talk about that all day long, Mayra.
Oh, absolutely.
And we want to be cognizant of your time as well. So we are going to lead quickly into our lightning round at the end of the podcast, and which we have enjoyed having you here. Thank you so much. We always go into a quick lightning round where we ask questions, and it's like on instinct, just tell us what you think.
Oh, wow. I'm nervous now.
We should be. These are some heady.
So, so we're going to do that quick lightning round. So the first question is, one thing every employer in Cincinnati needs to understand about hiring immigrants that they probably all do not understand.
Oh, wow. That's a heavy one.
Supposed to be a quick lightning round, one thing.
Immigrants are hardworking people. Employers know that. One thing they need to understand is the immigration system being so complex, in that they cannot treat all immigrants the same way, that they need to be more understanding of the immigration system to make sure they offer a more welcoming environment for their immigrant employees.
So you mentioned the system. So if you could change one thing about how the U.S. immigration system actually works, just one, what would it be?
Oh, God, we need to do another podcast about that. One thing I could change. Wow, that's a heavy question. I will definitely start by creating a employment path for undocumented immigrants in the U.S. and for people outside of the U.S. that want to work in our country.
Got it.
Awesome. The case that changed you, you don't have to name any names, but still a case that you carry. What happened?
Oh, wow. I have so many cases. Goodness, that's a good one. But this is a very recent case, and I've shared this case with Bryan. It's a child that we were representing since he was 15 years old. He arrived to the U.S. with the dreams of many children to seek a better future and to get education that he could not get in his country, and to support his family in his home country. A beautiful kid we've been represented that has been doing everything by the box. And he's 19, he's still going to school, which says a lot about a child being 19 years old, going to high school in the morning, going to auto mechanic school in the afternoon, and working at night to support his family.
Wow.
And he was falsely accused of a crime and arrested. And that has led to his arrest with ICE. And I've seen my attorneys working hard all the time, but the fight they put for this child, because we knew he was innocent and he was a victim of these absolutely cruel policies, absolutely cruel. And we fought very hard. We did not know what the outcome was going to be, and we had great partners in the city that were fighting with us, because this child did not deserve to be incarcerated. So finally, our child, after 4 months in jail, was released in January. The very next day, he went to his high school asking the principal if he could go back to school. His employer immediately rehired him, and he went back to school. And on May 12th, he's graduating from auto mechanic school.
Oh, that's great.
And
that's great.
we told him, whether you like it or not, every one of my staff is going to be at your graduation. And he was like, that's so exciting because I have no family here. I would love to have you there.
That is amazing.
It's just, I love children. Children have a special place in my heart. And when the government does these horrible things against children, it's really inspiring to see how resilient this child is after all the trauma he went through. He's very religious, so he said, this is just a test from God, and I will overcome this, and I will keep supporting my family. And so he supports his mother and 9 siblings in Guatemala with his work at pizza place. It's just an amazing kid. Yeah.
Let's hope it gets a good outcome at the end.
We hope so too.
Yeah. What does home mean to you now? And that's the last question.
God, you have very heavy questions here. What does home mean? My heart will always be in 2 places, because now Cincinnati is home too, and this is my current home. But Cusco will always be home. And it's just a mix of both worlds. I still dream on the day I'm going to go back home, because I guess it's just a dream every immigrant has. Maybe when I retire and my kids no longer need me, which will never happen, I can go home and spend 6 months here and 6 months there. But right now, Cincinnati is my home, and I love this city so much. So I have my 2 homes.
Well, that's amazing. So, Mayra, I want to say something to you. This is really amazing. Thank you so much for all the work that you put in, because we know immigration work is not easy work. It is a lot of highs and lows. So thank you so much. Your dedication shines through all the trials and tribulations that the Immigrant and Refugee Law Center has gone through, and you've been right there. So thank you so much for your work. I think Cincinnati is safer and more just because of the work that you do. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, God. Thank you, Bryan and Clara,
Mayra,
for having me here. This was great, a great conversation. Thank you for providing this platform to share our stories and to highlight, what immigrants do for our community.
Yes.
Well, thanks for being here, and thanks for the time, and thanks to everybody listening, and we will be back with you soon.
You're listening to Roots, Routes, and Voices, Stories That Shape America. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and visit CincinnatiCampus.org to stay connected. I'm Clara Matonhodze. Keep telling your story. Thank you for listening today. The voice you heard in this episode is one of thousands in this region. People whose roots run deep somewhere else and whose routes brought them here to this country. We are grateful they led us into their story.
If today's conversation stayed with you, share it. Pass it to someone who needs to hear it. Leave a review. And if you carry a story of your own roots, your own routes, we want to hear from you. Reach out through CincinnatiCompass.org.
You can find Roots, Routes, and Voices on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you listen. New episodes are rolling out now. Season 2 is made possible with the support of the Marketer Collaborative and the Greater Cincinnati Foundation. We are grateful for both partnerships.
Cincinnati Compass connects people to opportunity and builds a more inclusive region. Learn more at CincinnatiCompass.org. Until next time.
Keep telling your story.